Hello friends, Charlie Murphy here. Thank you for choosing my video. I'm playing a session of 2-5 No Limit 6 Max regular table games on Ignition today. Upper left-hand table, opening Ace-King for middle position using the 21% range. Get 3-bet in position. Games have seemed pretty aggressive. A lot of 3 and 4 betting going on so far today. No idea if that's something to be taken note of or just a kind of little bit of variance in the short term. Either way, I'm going to be using a standard plan here. 4-bet to call off with Queens Plus and Ace-King. I'm going to use Ace-Queen offsuit as my bluffing combo. It called. Lousy board for Ace-King, but great board for the overpairs, the 8-5-3 rainbow board. Going to go ahead and range bet here small. Or largely give up with Ace-King, although I suppose if I hit something like a 4 or a deuce, I've got a gut shot to go with my overcards that can still be bet. Oh, although we don't get that far, he folds on that low board. Obviously didn't have a pocket pair, was floating the 4-bet with some kind of suited Broadway or Ace-Queen type hand himself. Intent to pick up that pot on that flop, though, uncontested, that's for sure. Upper right-hand table, opening Ace-6 suited under the gun, using an 18% range. Upper right-hand table, and open Jack-5 suited blind on blind, using a 45% range. Big blind calls, I'll check range on the flop. I do have a weak top pair on the Jack-8-7 two-tone board. He checks back. A turn is an offsuit ace. I'm going to go ahead and start probing at this turn small, more just for equity denial than anything else. That's awful merging. If you're not going to be betting as high a frequency as me, that's the kind of hand that would play very well as a check. Upper right-hand table, get a 2.5x open from who seems to be a reg-type player on the cutoff. I'm going to 3-bet out of my big blind with King-10 suited. 3-betting about 10% here, including all my suited Broadways, pocket 9s plus, Ace-Queen plus, a few wheel aces, a few suited connectors. He comes along for a call, get an 8-7-3 two-tone board. I've got 2 overcards and a flush draw. Going to be going ahead and shoving a lot of chips in and a lot of different runouts. Start out by range betting small. Comes along for the call. Turn is an offsuit 6, which gives me a gut shot to go with my overcards and flush draw. I'm going to keep barreling. Use the 2/3 size here. Set me up for about a 2/3 size river jam. Upper left-hand table, opening 9-10 suited from middle position, using a 21% range. Got called down both streets. Not an ideal texture for bluffing because it's a great texture for bluff catching. However, I'm not going to surrender my king high. I'm going to blast off with it just like I've got an overpair. He quickly folds and I pick up a nice little pot there with king high. Lower right-hand table, opening 9-8 suited from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Lower right-hand table, 3x open, blind on blind. I don't fold very many combos, especially suited combos in a blind battle to even a 3x open. I will fold a couple, and some of the worst, like 8 deuce, 7 deuce suited, I will actually go ahead and fold. Right on the cusp, though. You could continue it too, and I don't think it's going to make a major difference one way or the other. Upper right-hand table, opening ace-queen from the cutoff using a 28% range. Get a king-jack-4 monotone board. I've got the queen of diamonds, so I've got the gut shot and the second flush draw. I'm going to go ahead and range bet small here after the big blind has checked to me. Big blind goes and puts in a raise. Basically, he min raises me from 784 to 1568 with my gut shot, my overcard, and my reasonably strong 4-card flush. I'm going to go ahead and float that. Lower left-hand table, opening kings on the button using the 44% range. And we get bet into again, half pot there. The interesting card is I could have queen 10 that just made the straight. I'm going to go ahead and continue floating against that size, thinking that my outs are still pretty damn live for the most part. Lower left-hand tab, I'm going to open ace-jack suited from under the middle position, rather, using a 21% range. Lower right-hand table, middle position, 2.5x opens. I will 3-bet from my cutoff. I'm going to 3-bet with my ace-10 suited, 3-betting about 10% here, including my suited broadways. He goes ahead and bets about 60% a pot here on the river. I bricked out entirely. I'm not going to try to bluff a guy that used a check-raise line on the flop, even though it used kind of an awkward, fishy small size. I'm just going to go ahead and fold that one. Had a chance to realize my equity. Didn't hit. I'll get out of the pot there, content with the way I played it. Lower left-hand table, the big blind calls, checks to me. I'll go ahead and range bet him small in position. I've got 2 overcards and a flush draw on the 10-9-4 two-tone board. Upper left-hand table, I also have ace-jack of diamonds, opening that from middle position with a 21% range. Turn the nuts on the lower left-hand table, the king of diamonds. I'm gonna on the flush closing turns, I'm going to go ahead and use smaller sizings, as I have a lot of hands that want to bet for protection and equity denial. Don't need to be as polarized here. I'm going to go ahead and use a half-pot size with, hands like King X, no diamond that need protection, my sets, my good 2 pairs, and my flushes, of course, my nut flushes as well. I can always overbet the river to try to get more money in later on. Can also have hands like ace-jack or ace-queen with the ace of diamonds that will go into a bluffing line here, barreling the turn as a semi-bluff and repping the flush on the river on bricks. I get check raise while I'm holding the nuts. Gotta love that. I'm just going to go ahead and float in position here and plan to get some more money in on the river. About 2x pot left behind. River is a jack, puts a 4 straight out there, although I'm not too worried about that. Just was really trying to dodge a board pairing card, which I did, so I still have the stone cold nuts. Upper left-hand table, 3x open, blind on blind. I've got jack deuce suited in the big blind. I'm going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet here. I'd like to bluff with a few of these janky suited combos. He goes and blasts for pot on the river. I've got the nuts. I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest all in. Hopefully he's got a weaker flush that will pay me off. The upper left-hand table, my 3-bet gets called, but a good flop for me. Ace-7-7 two-tone with the flush draw, which I have. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet. And I got called down by the flush. I suspect I just coolered him there with some kind of weaker flush. Let's take a look and see. He had 10-7 of diamonds, so he had top pair and a flush draw on the flop and turned a flush on the turn. Unfortunately, he turned himself dead there, having hit the flush against my ace-high flush. I think he really overplayed that. Probably should have called on the turn. Not entirely sure what a solver would do there, but I think he probably overplayed that smaller flush, just blasted into the nuts like that. Upper right-hand table, we get a limp. Means he's likely a recreational player from the cutoff. First, I've seen him do that, but I'm not going to assume that's a reg. Regs don't really limp and limp. I'm going to go ahead and isolate him up with the jacks from the button, using something like my cutoff open range, about 28%. Upper left-hand table, open ace-10 from the button. Lower right-hand table, open 4s from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Upper left-hand table, I'll open kings from middle position using a 21% range. Lower left-hand table, opening king-jack from the button using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table got flattered in position by who seems to be a reg-type player. I'm going to go ahead and check range to him. I've got second set on the ace-king-queen two-tone board. Nice flop for my hand. I beat everything really here except some jack-10 suited combos. He goes ahead and stabs for half pot. I've got the set. I'm not going to be that worried about his jack-10. I'm going to be just as likely to talk myself into getting value from various ace-x and various flush draws or combo draws. I'm going to go ahead with the check raise here with second set. Plan to keep blasting if I get called. He four bets me. I'm somewhat concerned that his most likely value hand here is in fact Jack-10 as opposed to hands that I beat. He could be overplaying some kind of combo draws or sort of like even a hand like Ace-Queen or King-Queen, I guess, could be in there a little bit. If he's got Jack-10, congratulations. He gets a chance to stack me trying to outrun my set. Otherwise, we're going to put the rest of the money in now here. When I get four bet with middle set, we're putting the money in. He calls with Jack-10. He's got the stone cold nuts. That's the way the game goes sometimes. But hey, look at that. I go runner for a chop, and I get to at least keep half my stack. I will take it. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind. I open the ace-queen using a 45% range. I checked range on the flop, and he checked back on the 8-7-6 rainbow. Turn is an offsuit or a deuce of clubs that puts a backdoor flush draw up there. I go ahead and probe small. Planning to follow through on the river, probably for a smaller size. If I hit one of my pairs, if I turn a club, I'll probably overbet bluff with my nut flush blocker. Lower left-hand table, opening king-queen from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table, opening ace-8 suited from the button using a 44% range. I get 3-bet by the small blind, cold 4-bet by the big blind, and I am way out of the way with my ace-8 suited after that action. Could jam back there with queens plus ace-king. I think tens are probably too light. Ace-queen is probably too light. I think jacks is kind of the rubber hand right there. This guy, he might be tilted from that jack-10 run out there where we end up having to chop when he got me all in with the nuts. Or maybe not. So I don't know. I could shove jacks. I think everything else plays itself. I think jacks is where the decision is in that hand right there. He hasn't really 3-bet or 4-bet yet so far, but that doesn't mean very much over the first couple of orbits. Upper right-hand table, going to open 10-9 blind on blind using a 45% range. Got called by the big blind. I'll check range. I do have a gut shot on the Jack 8-5 two-tone board. Goes ahead and he bets about 2/3. No reason to check raise as a bluff here, especially without the diamond blocker, but more specifically against that larger sizing on the flop. I'll just go ahead and check call, looking for a jack or maybe some other card that gives me additional equity. 7 gives me more equity there. I also have good removal to 6-9, although I think a 6 is probably a better card for a check raise bluff in this spot if I want to start putting a move on a guy. Lower left-hand table, going to go ahead and check call out of my big blind against the middle position 3x open with 8-6 suited. Flop bottom 2 pair on a monotone board, king 8-6. I check range, he checks back. Turn is an ace. I'm going to go ahead and probe small with my small 2 pair. I get an overbet from the big blind on the upper right-hand table. Even I've got the open under against the overbet, I'm just going to go ahead and fold that there. Showing a lot of strength with the size up on the flop and the overbet on the turn. Tough to play 10 high out of position in check call lines. I get raised Now, I'm assuming there's going to be a good bit of some ace-x type hands that are just looking to kind of do this for value and protection, then check back. The turn raises are usually reasonably strong, although I think they're getting a bit more common against these small turn leads. I've only got to call 29 into 78. I've got bottom two pair. I do have 4 outs to what I'm going to consider to be the nuts. I'm going to go ahead and call this and try to get a favorable river, or at least a river that we can all check back. I call. He checks back, and a big reason for my call is on the turn is what actually happened there. I think I'm actually against a head that's doing that for some smidge of protection. He had ace queen with the queen of clubs. I actually think I would like a call better than a raise with that particular combo in his spot, just because the queen of clubs is going to allow him to call down on pretty much any river, whether a club hits or misses. So I think that's the kind of combo that doesn't need as much protection, but I see his logic. Lower left-hand table, going to open 9-8 from the button, using a 44% range, right around the bottom of my open range. Big blind calls, checks to me. I'll go ahead and put in the small range bet in position. Got some backdoor equity here with that Queen 7-4 rainbow board. A card like a 6 or a 10 is a great card to keep barreling. I don't get one of those, though. I get the 4. The 4 of spades puts a backdoor flush draw up there. I don't have any removal to any flush draws or anything like that. I don't have great removal to the top pair type hands. I don't have any real equity like I would have with 5-6 or a flush draw. And an 8 or a 9 river is going to make a great bluff catcher if he leads into me, or hands I can maybe try to get some thin value with myself. All that adds up to this hand being a good combo to go ahead and check back. Guy checks to me again. On the river, I'm not going to show it on my 9 high. I will go ahead and reopen the river and stab at it as a bluff, try to take it away from ace high, pocket, 7x, pocket 5, something like that. He rivered a king for top pair, so of course it's not going to work on that card, but on blank cards, I bet it works an awful lot. Lower left-hand table, right-hand table, opening queens from the button using a 44% range. Lower left-hand table, opening 5s under the gun, using an 18% range. Get 3-bet by the middle position player, about exactly 3x 3-bet from the middle position player. I'm just going to go ahead and fill. I'll be very tight to these in-position 3-bets, especially in tight formations like under the gun versus middle position. Cold 4-bet there as well. Going to get way out of the way. Games are not great this morning, unfortunately. Not finding a whole lot in the way of fish, which is where most of my profit comes from. Going to stick it out for a little bit longer and see if I can't find some, but the pickings have been pretty slim so far. And that table doesn't look even remotely promising. Lower left-hand table, get an open limp from middle position. I didn't really have this guy marked as a fish. I assume that's more of a misclick than anything, but I don't know. Either way, I get to check in my big blind after a more likely shorter stacked fish limps behind on the button. I'll check with 10-7 and check range on the flop. Got second pair and a backdoor flush draw on the 10, ace 10-5 rainbow board. Flop checks around. I'm going to stab for the minimum on that 9 turn. Puts a backdoor flush draw up there, which I don't have, but I do have second pair. Can deny equity, get some value from some kind of draw like 7-8, Jack Queen, various diamonds, or a 9x or 5x type hand. Or just pick the pot up. River is a 3. We got a fish in there. The fish could have some random ace-x that he limps and checks back the flop, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gives me a decent bit of value from a 9x or a 5x type hand. I am going to go ahead and bet kind of a mergy, thinner value bet here, about 2/3, knowing I'm going to value cut myself into an ace quite a bit. But I can get some value from a 9x that gets suspicious or a 5x that gets suspicious, and I can have a lot of bullshit airball bluffs myself, so I want to have some thinner value as well to help justify justify that. Not that worried about getting bluff raised by a guy that's limping behind and playing 30 blinds deep, so there ain't any risk in that spot. Go ahead and put in the thin value bet. Lower right-hand table has some promise. 6-seat playing about 40 blinds deep. Lower left-hand table will open King 6 suited from the button using the 44% range. All right, the fish is dealt in on that big blind here, and I get kings on the button, which of course I'm going to be opening as part of a 44% button opening range. Upper left-hand table, we get a 2.5x open from middle position. I'm in the big blind with pocket nines. Pocket nines right on the cusp, but more of a 3-bet than a call type hand for me here. 3-betting about 7-8%. Usually nines are better would be 3-bet, 8s or worse would be called. Go ahead and put in my 3-bet. Also 3-bet most of my, all my suited broadways, ace, king, and maybe a couple suited connectors and wheel ace type hands to get me in that 7-8% range. Get called, get an ace-7-7 two-tone board. I'll go ahead and put in a range bet on that board, mostly checking turns as I don't have any 7x or quad 7s in my range. Aces full can check and trap. A lot of other aces can go into check call lines to help me, protect some of my mid pairs, nines through kings. Can bet a few of my aces and also bet some flush draws on the turn. Yeah, turn is the 5. Let's see. I can have king queen, king jack, king 10, queen jack, queen 10, jack 10, maybe a few other suited aces. I can have 6 to 8 flush draws. Probably bet my ace king, and mostly check my aces. So I'm trying to think how I want to balance the offsuit flush draw blockers and not blockers there. I probably want to use that to be my way by which I split. I don't think I need to turn nines into a bluff here. I think I just want to try to take the showdown value. I don't know I don't really know that I fold out enough better pairs to justify bluffing with them, or ace X. Who knows? He may just check back a hand like pocket 6s, pocket 8s. There should be a few hands that I actually beat here. And I've got all those unpaired suited Broadway type cards that don't barrel the turn without flush draws that I can just go ahead and put into the river reopen bluff line. I can have some weak ace X that I would have checked twice here to induce. I don't think I need to be calling here with pocket nines. I guess I don't block flush draws. I got middle position versus big blind. That's a little over bluff, but the ace high flop is not so much. Call, check, bet. I think I should fold it. It's really close, though. Lower left-hand table, opening jack 10 suited blind on blind, using a 45% range. Get 3-bet instantly by the big blind. In this very loose formation, I can call a ton like my suited Broadway, so I will go ahead and defend. Lower left-hand table, I check call the flop with top pair, turned a backdoor flusher to go with it, face 150% overbet. I'll continue check calling here with all my equity. Check to the river. Lower left-hand table, it's that small bet there. I've got 2 overcards, a 3 to the straight, but no backdoor flush draw. I think I'll just go ahead and fold this, probably kind of close. I brick out on the lower right-hand table, but my top pair is good when he surrenders the river with his ace-queen. Not entirely sure that I like his line. I don't think it's a great turn overbet combo there, and if you overbet the turn, I just don't know how you give up the river there with ace high. Lower right-hand table, going to open blind on blind with queen 3 suited. Get a min raise and then a min raise back by a fishy player on the button. I've got ace queen suited, trying to figure out what sizing I want to use here. I think I'll probably just pop this up to about 90. Yeah, and I can put in a cold 4-bet bluff here with this particular combo. I'm going to stack off with queens plus ace-king. I can have a decent number of bluffs with this sizing convention. A lot of my suited broadways, ace-queen offsuit, pocket jacks, maybe pocket tens. I don't necessarily think that that little 10 to 20 re-raise necessarily screams strength. The small raise back over my 90 to 160, however, does scream a lot of strength from a suspected fish. So I'll go ahead and fold this one out. Lower right-hand table, going to open jacks from middle position using a 21% range. Lower left-hand table, going to open Jack-10 suited from the cutoff using a 28% range. Also going to shuffle that table as just doesn't seem to have a whole lot going for it right now. Lower left-hand table, get called in position M by the big blind, sandwiched between 2 players. I'm going to be checking range. A nice coordinated board, Queen Jack 9 two-tone. I've got middle set on that board at the same time. I will check range and look to get a check raise in here if somebody decides to stab at it. Otherwise, I'm going to start betting on most turns. Lower left-hand table, a small blind player calls and leads into me for about 2/3 on ace 7-6 rainbow. I've got jack 10 with just a backdoor flush draw, and I can certainly fold that hand. In position player stabs for about 75% of pot on the lower right-hand table, and then the big blind calls. I'm going to go ahead and put in that check raise. Check raise about half pot there. Look to keep blasting on future streets if no one reopens the action here. Get called in position. Could maybe have sized that up more to make a turn jam a bit more appropriate. Lousy turn card, the 4 of hearts multi-way flush closer. Got a little more than pot left behind. I get let into for 100. I'm liable to be sandwiched between another raise behind me. However, for that price, I've got to try to call. I'm getting direct immediate odds if I get to the river just to try to fill up and hit a full house. I'm going to go ahead and flat that, even though I do not love the sandwich scenario here. Against an in-position jam, I just have to hate life and fold out. My flop set's not doing so great for me so far on these coordinated boards. Low upper right-hand table, a min raise from a recreational player on the button. I will defend my big blind with 7-4 suited. Check range on the flop. Nice flop for me. Ace 6-3 two-tone, giving me a gut shot and a flush draw. He stabs for half pot. I will go ahead and check raise. Brilliant river for me. The queen, offsuit queen that pairs the board. I'm going to go ahead and get the money in. He jabs all in for half pot. I call. He had the nut flush, but I've got the boat, and I win that pot. For right-hand table, my flop check raise gets called. I'm going to go ahead and continue blasting the turn here with my combo draw. I don't get him to fold out the turn, but the river is a club giving me the flush closer. I've got 2x pot left. I normally don't like going so crazy with the small flush, but given that this guy's a fish for playing a check raise line, I think he's going to get awful sticky on the ace. I was considering not even following through with the bluff on the river had I bricked out, because I just don't think the guy folds enough. I'm going to go ahead and try to get the, what I believe to be a fish, get his stack, and just move all in here with my flush for about 2x pot. And that one folds him out. Hitting some nice cards so far here. Having the session go pretty well, all things considered. Upper right-hand table, a rec open limps the cutoff. I'll complete the small blind with 10-7 suited. Big blind checks in. I check range on the flop. Mostly be check folding if anyone stabs here on this ace-jack 10 two-tone board, although I can probably start stabbing that at myself on the turn if it checks through. It does check through. I've got totally bullshit at this point. Fourth pair on a four straight three flush board with that queen of hearts showing up. I am going to stab at it, just see if I can't take this pot away with nobody showing any desire for it quite yet. We'll likely follow through on the river, unless these guys start showing some strength now and talk me out of it. Lower right-hand table, open an ace-4 from the button, using a 44% range. Got an open limping player playing about 35 blinds deep on the lower right-hand table. Folds to my big blind with aces. I'm going to go ahead and pop him up using a tight 12-ish% range. You know, eights are better, suited broadways, ace-10 plus, king-jack. He comes along, limp calls, get a nice, safe king-8 deuce rainbow board. I'll go ahead and range bet him small. Upper left-hand table will defend the 2.5x open from middle position in my big blind with sevens, check range on the flop. The in-position player calls the small bet. Turn is a 10 of diamonds, putting the backdoor flush draw up there. We got about 1.5x pot left. I'm going to go half pot all in here with my aces. He comes along for the call. River, a nice clean river, offsuit 3. Going to go ahead and stick the rest in here now. He quickly calls with a set of kings. What a guy. Limp calling kings and trap him with his set the entire way. Upper right-hand table, going to go ahead and call the flop 2/3 bet with my sevens on the 5-4-4 two-tone board. Continue checking on the turn. Now against the overbet, I'm just going to go ahead and fold the sevens. I can have 4x or 5s full, 5-4 even, that would have trapped pre-flopping on the, or not pre-flop, instead of trap it on the flop as a trap, of course. I could have just made 9s if I don't 3-bet that pre-flop, and I could be perceived as having those. I can have various draws that are probably better to continue with, to have a lot more cards to improve on. I think the sevens are just going to be a pretty clear fold against the overbet. Lower right-hand table, blind on blind, we get a 3x open. I'm going to go ahead and re-raise with my 5-4 suited. I'd like to 3-bet my suited connectors in this very loose formation. 3-betting 17, 18%. So you know, a wide variety of hands to get there. Lower right-hand table, open ace-9 suited from the cutoff using the 28% range. Get 3-bet by the button. I'll just go ahead and fold my ace-9 against the 3-bet. Upper right-hand table, the rec limps the cutoff. The button, who's been tight and passive, isolates him to a small size as ISOs go, 3.5x. I'm in the small blind with king, queen suited. Going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet here. 3-betting here to a large size as the pot's bloating even off that small ISO size. I'll stack off with jacks or better and ace-king against a jam. 3-betting, you know, 9-ish% here, including my suited broadways, 8s plus, ace queen, wheel aces, something like that, maybe a few suited connectors. I get called, get a 10-7-7 two-tone board. I do have all the overpairs. I've got a bunch of 10x, and I've got 10s full, and those 7x in my range, but who really knows how well he understands that. I will go ahead and range bet this particular board. Range betting most boards after I 3-bet out of position, but not necessarily all of them. This board's clean enough to do it on, though. And I can also pick up a jack, a diamond, you know, a king or a queen for top pair. Don't get any of those. I pick up an offsuit 4. In this particular spot, I think I could check my 10s full as a trap. I can check my aces as well to trap. The other overpairs, I think I'm going to be betting for the most part. 10x can go either way, and I've got some flush draws with overcards that I want to keep betting. Trying to think here, the backdoor flush draws are going to be the diamond-type hands that would float. So diamonds are a particularly bad can to barrel with here, as, you know, if he's got a hand like ace-queen of diamonds, king-jack of diamonds that wants to float that flop and then folds on the turn when they don't hit, I want him to have those. He can't have those when I do. I think this combo firmly belongs in the check line on the turn. I can hit a river card for value such as a king or a queen, or I can reopen rivers to bluff if he doesn't bet me off it on the turn. He goes and bets 70. Now if I've got aces or 10s full, you know, I can either check call or check raise those. Could also have some draws that I just put into a check call line. And I guess the overpairs also to some extent can be better, some 10 or some checked and then check raised, or some 10x. King queen I'm just going to get out of the way with. Lower left-hand table, opening jack 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower right-hand table, got a min raise for middle position, or from under the middle position. A fish calls in the cutoff. I am in the big blind with queen 6 suited. Going to go ahead and be calling most of my suited cards here in this spot, and then we'll check range on the flop. Flop checks through on the 6-5 deuce rainbow board. Turn is the ace of spades, putting a backdoor flush draw up there. I'm going to go ahead and probe the turn small with my top pair. If I'm betting into an ace, I'm never getting that to fold, but I should protect my equity against most other holdings. Oh, and I can hit a 6 or a queen to continue value betting on the river instead. Here, I just don't really think I'm ever going to fold an ace or really even an 8 all that often. I'm just going to check this and try to get the showdown for free. Mostly check folding, not expecting too many bluffs in the check call bet line from the pre-flop raiser. He goes ahead and bets 2/3. I guess he could have some busted spades, but that line is not particularly bluffy. I'm going to go ahead and give him some credit and fold the river. Upper right-hand table, I open the cutoff with ace-queen using a 28% range. I get 3-bet by the button player to a large size, 1250 up to 45, you know, a little bit more than 3.5x. He's been active and aggressive pre-flop so far. I was planning to 4-bet bluff this guy right here. I was going to before the cold 4-bet 4-bet tens plus or ace-king to get him in, and then hands like ace-queen offsuit and a couple of wheel aces as the bluff. Against this small blind cold 4-bet, my strategy is going to change dramatically, and ace-queen becomes an easy fold. Jam over the top there with queens plus ace-king, perhaps pocket jacks as well. I think that's kind of the rubber hand in that spot. Lower left-hand table, going to open 9-8 suited from the button, using a 44% range. Big blind calls. I get a 10-8-6 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and put in the small range bet in position. This is the kind of board where you could go ahead and split and use larger sizes. I don't get into that too much, but for players that do, it's a prime candidate for doing so. A decent turn for me, the queen of diamonds, in that I now have a double gut shot there on my 9 to either the 7 or the jack. I want to be betting some 9x, some jack x, or maybe even some 7x. I could also be betting some ace-king gut shots or various diamond draws. Given that I've got some showdown value here with the pair, I think this is the kind of hand that plays better in the check back line when I've got all those other candidates for barreling with, some more naked 9x with less showdown value. Great river for me, the 7, giving me the straight on the 4 straight. He checks to me. I'm going to go ahead and put in a river value bet. Could also be doing this with total complete air that can't win at showdown, or stuff like under pairs like deuces through 5s even, I think would have to be bluffs here. But here I've got the 9, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to get some value. Upper right-hand table, opening ace-queen under the gun, using an 18% range. Fishy player comes along out of the small blind and calls me. I get a king 8-5 two-tone board. Going to go ahead and range bet him small here in position. I do have the backdoor flush draw and nut flush draw blocker with the ace of spades in my hand. Lower left-hand table opened in jack 7 suited from the cutoff using a 28% range. Upper right-hand table, he check calls, and the turn is a board pairing card, the 5. I'm going to go ahead and check back my ace high. I can bluff catch on aces or queens, or even value bet them if they hit. No need to bloat this pot here, though, without real robust equity. Rather be bluffing with various spade draws. I guess I don't really have 6-7 in this formation, so I don't have much in the way of straight draws. But I can have 5x for trips. I can have 8s full. I would trap my quad 5s or my kings full. Here, ace-queen, I think I'll just go ahead and check back. I mostly want to be betting hands that block the king that are worse, hands like queen-jack, queen-10, or flush draw type hands with robust equity. Ace-queen, I think I just want to check that one back, try to get to the river. Reasonably clean run out. The 9 could coordinate with some stuff that he calls with. He bets 25 into 45. Not really sure this hand is quite good enough to bluff catch with. 60% bet is extremely bluffy, though, from the fish. About that half pot bet. Check call, check bet is pretty bluffy. Pairing turn also gets pretty bluffy. He could have random floats here, even though he's in the small blind. That makes it a little less so, but that small size just puts me into hero call mode. He's got 6s, whatever. That's the concern, that sometimes I'm giving value against stuff where he gets a bit too mergy, but he can have total bullshit there too. I think it's a clearer call from the big blind, because even though they're fish and they don't really differentiate as much as they should, they still will be a little more pocket pair heavy from the small blind. I think the call is okay, though. Probably not slam dunk profitable, but I think it's okay. Lower upper left-hand table, got a 3x open blind on blind. I'm going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet pre-flop bluff with 9-7 offsuit. I like to 3-bet a few of these combos just outside my calling range in these blind on blind spots as something like a pre-flop bluff. 9-7 is one I've been using a lot lately. Get called, get a decent board from my hand, 8, 7, 8, 4 rainbow. So I've got second pair. I'm behind the over pairs, of course, but the hand itself is good against all the unpaired high cards. He donks into me for 1/3 pot. Very odd to see a donk line here. Maybe it's more common on these low boards and these coordinated boards. I'm going to go ahead and float here, see what he does on later streets. Upper right-hand table, the flop checked around in this limp pot. I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at it. I do have an overcard to help bail me out. He continues donking into me. That donk line is actually pretty weak from regulars when they're in this blind on blind spot. This guy's also pretty loose. I'm going to continue calling, evaluate the river. Lousy river in that my hand doesn't have nearly as much bluff catch value now there as its fourth pair. Looking for a nice cleaner one. He could have hit some overcards that actually give him some showdown value. My little turn stab got raised on the upper right-hand table, so I'm just going to go ahead and fold. He goes ahead and bets again. He bets 1/3. This bet is so bluffy. This triple donk line, from what I've seen, I mean, he could have actually hit something, which is a bit of my concern. I'm trying to decide if there's more value in bluff raising. I think I just want to jam all in here like I would do if I actually had something real strong on this flop. Although I don't know that he actually goes ahead and folds too much stuff. I'm going to be a little bit more on the cautious side. I'm just going to hero call it. Maybe pay off a king or a queen. Yeah, a lot of that going on. I don't think he folds that, though, to the raise either. Lower left-hand table, going to go ahead and defend my big blind against the cutoff 2.5x open with ace-8 suited. Check range on the flop. Upper right-hand table, I open 10s from the cutoff. The rec calls me. I get a dream flop, 10-5-5 two-tone. Going to go ahead and range bet small. Lower right-hand table, going to 3-bet from my small blind against the button, 2.5x open with king-queen. 3-betting about 15% there, very aggressive in this loose formation. Lower left-hand table, face a small bet on the ace-queen-6 two-tone board. Going to go ahead and check call with my ace-8 backdoor flush draw. Interesting turn card, a flush closing 8 gives me 2 pair on a flush possible board. I'm going to continue checking, mostly check calling here if he bets again. He goes ahead and bets again. He bets 2/3. I'm going to go ahead and check call with my aces and 8s. Check the river. River is a blank deuce of spades. Doesn't really change much of anything. Now he goes and overbets the river. He bets about 175%. This formation is not particularly bluffy. The sizing is really about neutral, honestly. The formation, though, however, is a little bit underbluffed. The ace-high flops tend to be underbluffed. The flush closing turns as well. Those are about neutral. I think it's better to call with flush draw blockers here. It's kind of a neutral spot. I'm going to go ahead and fold the ace-8. I'd much rather be calling with the hand like ace-jack with the jack of hearts than ace-8 with no spade blockers. I'm going to go ahead and fold this one. I'm going to go ahead and give it the credit. Upper left-hand table, going to 3-bet 9s from the button against the 3x middle position open. Three betting about 9% here against that size in this formation. Lower left-hand, or upper left-hand table, rather, going to open king-queen suited from the cutoff using the 28% range. Lower right-hand table, going to open ace-king from the button using the 44% range. Lower left-hand table, going to open king-4 suited from the button using the 44% range. Upper right-hand table, opening queen-6 suited from the cutoff using the 28% range. Lower left-hand table, opening ace-10 from the cutoff using the 28% range. Upper right-hand table against the 3-bet, queen-6 suited, one of my worst opens from the cutoff. I will go ahead and fold it. Got a blind-on-blind limp on the upper right-hand table. I checked in with Jack-4. He checks to me. I'm going to stab in position for the minimum. I had a backdoor gut shot on the ace-queen-7 rainbow. He check calls. Turn is a 3 of diamonds. I've got no real equity, no great blockers necessarily. I'm just going to go ahead and check back and look to maybe reopen the river as a bluff. He goes ahead and checks back. I'm going to go ahead and use a large overbet size here on that ace. Can fold him off anything but an ace with this. Lower right-hand table, get a 2.5x button open. I'll defend my big blind with king-deuce suited and check range on the flop. And I get check raised on the overbet there. That did not work out the way I would have liked. I will go ahead and fold. Lower right-hand table, we get a small bet on the 10-5-3 rainbow. I'm going to go ahead and put in a check raise with my backdoor flush draw against a small size and a loose formation here. Can continue barreling if I happen to pick up some equity on mostly just looking for some kind of spade. I guess a 4 gives me an open ender, although it's not really great on the low end of that draw. I got called, but I do pick up equity on that jack of spades, so I am going to go ahead and keep betting. Bet about 2/3 here. I plan to bluff the river a lot if I whiff out here, as I can just be doing the same thing with something like set of 5s, set of 3s. And I do have that flush draw to bail me out here in case I'm getting trapped. He comes along for the call. I brick out, but I do have good removal to the straight. 2-4 is blocked. I could legitimately have it, I suppose. Plus, I also block king queen if he somehow got there. I block both the straights. The ace should scare him off various 10x type hands that he could have been flatting with. I'm going to go ahead and blast off there as a bluff all in for about 2x pot. My range here is going to be something like straights, sets, and bluffs. Hey, got it through. All right, suspected fish doubles up there with the full house. It's first hand or so. I'm going to take a look at that action, see how he played that. That he was buying in short already had me thinking he was probably a fish, but how did he play that hand? He defended his big blind with three deuce offsuit, which is already kind of funky, and flopped pair and open ender. Now he's open jamming the button. This is a good guy to be playing against. Yeah, he just won a flip. They got that all on the flop. He had 3 deuce on 5-4-3, and the other guy had jack 10 with the flush draw. So open ender, pair plus open ender versus flush draw. Yeah, he's a wreck. No doubt about it. At ace deuce is a little loose for open on the button, but right on the cusp. Don't let me do it, but it's fine. Oh, and he's gone already, man. What a shame. Getting min raise blind on blind in the upper right-hand table. He's been kind of loose passive so far. I wonder if that means much of anything. He's been calling out of the blind. It's probably too early to have that mean much of anything. I'm just going to defend a very standard way here. Not really folding suited cards at all for a min raise blind on blind. So I'll go ahead and call with my 5-3. He leads for half pot. I've got backdoor straight and flush draw. I think this is a reasonable hand to defend with here in this loose wide spot. Lower left-hand table, going to open 9-8 from the button. He's in the 44% range. Decent card for me, the ace, is it gives me a gut shot, but I don't really want to call with the gut shot there, as a better straight is already possible. I don't have any other equity. I just don't know I can move this guy off hands too much if I bluff. I'm going to go ahead and just fold this one here against the second barrel. Lower left-hand table, the big blind comes along. I'm going to go ahead and put in a continuation bet in position. I do have an open-ended straight draw. Lower left-hand table, can go ahead and 3-bet the 2.5x cutoff, or middle position open from the cutoff with my pocket queens. 3-betting 9-10% there. Lower left-hand table is a 3 of diamonds, completes a straight, puts a backdoor flush draw up there. I've got the open-ended straight draw. I'm going to go ahead and continue barreling. I also block both flush draws, which is a nice little bit of extra equity there, and he's going to be a bit harder for him to have hands that can continue. Wow, lower right-hand table, my 3-bet from the cutoff gets 4-bet by the middle position player. Against the regs, I like to call with queens and jacks, ace-queen suited against this here as a standard, and trap with aces, jam kings and ace-king over the top. His 4-bet's a little bit bigger, so maybe I fold ace-queen suited as I can fold more against that size up. Queens, however, are still coming along. That's about as clean a board as I could hope for, short of hitting a set. Nice low board with an overpair, no ace, no king out there. Even jacks, if he's overplaying or playing, maybe not really overplaying, but playing his jacks fast and strong, they can still feel good on that overpair situation. Given that I have, let me see here, I have jacks, I've got queens, I've got aces, and I really don't have ace-queen suited. I think that entire range for continue wants to just jam all in, primarily because the jacks and queens don't want to risk letting overcards fall. So I'm going to go ahead and just ship over the top here now. Got called down instantly by aces, which is the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, but hey, I'm not folding queens as an overpair. I ain't no bitch. Upper right-hand table, opening queen 9 suited from middle position using a 21% range. Big blind calls. I'll go ahead and put in a small range, but in position here after he checks. Got some overcards. Turned to gut shot as well here on that 10. 8-5-4 two-tone flop. Turn is the 10. Let me see here. From middle position, I can have hands like various flush draws. I think I probably want to be betting. I don't really have gut shots. Well, my Jack 9 gut shot's never going to have a spade, or never going to have a heart, rather, unless they have a flush draw. I think I'm going to check these back. I can bet stuff like Queen Jack, especially with a heart, as a bluff. I think I'll check back some gut shots, too. Now he goes ahead and he bets 15 and a 56. I'm going to go ahead and try to take that away from him. Instantly calls with 8-7. I do think this guy's a little bit fishy, but I do think I need to try to bluff raise those small river leads from fish. Lower right-hand table, get a 2.2x open from middle position. Fish calls in the cutoff. I will call my big blind with deuces, looking to hit a set here and closing the action. Upper right-hand table, min raise from the button. Fish calls the small blind. I will call the min raise, closing the action with 5-7 here, looking to hit something strong and deceptive. Lower right-hand table, everyone checks around on the flop. I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at it, plus also knowing my deuces are almost certainly going to be a monster hand if I happen to peel my gin card on the river. Both players come along and call. I'm not going to follow through and bluff multiple players on that particular board. I'm going to give up a few there. I think that's a fine spot to do it. Not likely to have too many flush draws. Should be a lot of ace-x out there that, won't raise earlier and play slow, but also is not going to fold to a river bet. I'm getting out the way. Promising looking table in the lower left-hand table, a bunch of 30 blind stacks, and then this 4-seat's been very loose and active so far. Lower right-hand table, recreational player limps middle position. I'll complete the small blind with ace-4. Check range on the flop. Lower left-hand table, get a 2.5x open under the gun. A short stack, probable fishy type player calls the small blind. I am going to squeeze out of my big blind with ace-queen offsuit here. Lower right-hand table, just check range on the flop, then check call with my weak trips on the ace-ace-9 two-tone board. I don't really know that he has enough 9x here or other cards that justify me value, but I'm just going to check to him, give him a chance to stab. The fish called the squeeze. The under the gun player left. He donks into me for about 60% of pot on the ace queen 5 or queen 5-4 two-tone board. I've got top pair, top kicker, gladly calling off. He's got deuces, drawing very, very slim, and I pick up a little pot there. Get a min raise and a fishy player calls the small blind after the button min raise. I'm going to go ahead and call closing the action with the small suited card 6 deuce suited. Just looking to hit something real strong and deceptive for a cheap price with the fish in the pot. Get a Jack 9-8 rainbow board. I guess I have a backdoor flush draw, but that doesn't mean a whole lot at this point. And he leads in the fish leads into me for minimum. Just going to fold. Looks like the games are finally starting to get going here on this Friday. They were lousy for most of the session, but this new table over here on the lower left looks like nothing but promise, and I do have at least one rec player on the other two tables as well. Lower left-hand table, opening King 5 suited from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Upper left-hand table, opening King Queen suited from the button, using a 44% range. Get 3-bet by the small blind to 56. Was planning to defend for sure with King Queen suited in position, but then the big blind instantly jams his 37 or so blinds all in over the top. I'll get out of the way. Ace-9 suited forced to call off against pocket 8s. Ace-9 suited wins the race. Lost the rec in the upper right-hand table, unfortunately. Upper left-hand table, open King Queen from the cutoff using the 28% range. Lower left-hand table, open Ace-3 from the button. I usually fold Ace-3 and Ace-Deuce, but with the fish in the big blind, I'm going to go ahead and play a few more hands. Fish comes along, get a Jack 9-8 two-tone board. He leads into me for just over half pot. Now we'll go ahead and fold with no meaningful equity. Lower left-hand table, opening Ace-10 from the cutoff using the 28% range. Losing a couple of the wrecks, still have the one with the big stack though, so this table's not dead in the water. He's very active playing lots of hands too, which means I want to be in there playing lots of hands going after him. Got an ace-high flop, top pair, decent kicker with the ace-10, ace-7-4 rainbow. Go ahead and range bet him small. I plan to start overbetting most turn cards. Turn is the 4. Interesting. Do I want to overbet that one? I mean, I can have various 4x type hands. Just not sure how much weaker ace-x he comes along with. I think it's close, but I want to be going for big value against these fish here. If he's got something like ace-5 suited, I'm going to be able to keep blasting him. I think he can have a lot of weak ace-x in his range. Now, however, I chop against the ace-x type hands because I've got aces and fours with the queen kicker, so I don't think there's as much merit in betting this any longer because the hands I'm targeting are ace-x out kick. I will check back and see he had 3-4, so it saved me from value cutting myself into his trips right there. Lower left-hand table, that rec open limps to cutoff. It folds to my big blind where I'll check in with my jack-5 suited, check range on the flop. He min bets. I'm just going to go ahead and fold without a whole lot of equity there in that hand. And the 7-7-6 two-tone board with no draw, no flush draw or backdoor flush draw. Lower right-hand table, going to open ace-7 suited under the gun, using an 18% range. Get 3-bet by the small blind, and this is just going to be a standard fold after the 3-bet in these tighter than typical formations. Shit. Lower right-hand table, opening king-queen from middle position, using a 21% range. Big blind calls, going to go ahead and range bet small in position. I got second pair top kicker on the ace-king-5 two-tone board, mostly checking turns unless I hit another king. Turn is the 9 of diamonds. I'm going to go ahead and use the half pot size as opposed to overbets on this flush closer. Can half pot bet with my flushes, my sets, most of my two-pair type hands, and some ace-x, mostly ace-x without a diamond that needs some protection and equity denial that really is worried about hitting a bad river. Great river for me, that king, offsuit king giving me trips. I'm going to go ahead and put in a value bet here after he checks. Let the ace-x hero call me to whatever extent he has a lot of that. Lower left-hand table, open ace-8 suited from middle position using a 21% range. Upper right-hand tab, we're going to open ace-10 suited from the button using a 44% range. For left-hand table, we get a button limp, small blind complete. I'll check in my big blind with 10-9. Upper right-hand table, the big blind calls, then checks range to me, or checks to me. I'm going to go ahead and bet range small. I get a 10-5-4 rainbow board. I've got some cards I can barrel on, like some gut shots I could hit. Overcard for an ace. Ace is a good one. We hit the ace, ace of hearts, putting a backdoor flush draw up there. I'm going to go ahead and put the ace-10 into the overbet line. Get the overbet or check on this spot. Can overbet my good ace-x, my sets, most of my two pairs, and various draws like good flush draws or open-ended draws like 6-7. Lower left-hand table, we checked range on the flop. The flop checked around the 10-4 deuce two-tone flop. Turn is an offsuit 8. I'm going to go ahead and stab small minimum with my 10-9 weak top pair. Upper right-hand table, opening ace-9 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower left-hand table, get a 2.25x open from the cutoff. I am in the button, going to go ahead and 3-bet very aggressively here, about 13%, including my 10-9 suited. Got basically min raised from 1250 to 25 by a short stack big blind. I'm going to call that on the upper right-hand table. Upper left-hand table against that turn check raise, just going to go ahead and fold my top pair. Going to go ahead and give him credit for actually having a hand in that line. Upper right-hand table, I have a Jack-7-4 two-tone board. I have no diamond in my hand, no piece of it. Just going to go ahead and fold the ace-9 even against the small bet. I'm calling that small re-raise pre-flop just to try to hit something very, very strong and take advantage of the cheap price I'm getting to see the flop. I'm not going to be looking to float the flop very wide. Make my money by realizing 3 cards worth of equity by getting to the flop cheap and hoping to hit something strong and ideally deceptive. The 40 blind player tries to limp blind on blind. I'm going to pop him up for my big blind with king-5 suited. Popping him up pretty aggressively, something like my button open range, about 44%, including the suited kings. I'm not going to isolate the 40 blind limper from the cutoff with 6-8 suited. Right on the cusp, a little bit too loose, though, in my opinion. Lower right-hand table, blind on blind. I'm facing a 3x open. I've got 10-6 ups. It's a little bit too weak to defend, even as a 3-bet bluff. I'm just going to go ahead and fold it. Lower right-hand table, going to open 8-7 suited from the button using a 44% range. Big blind comes along. Checks to me. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet in position. We have a Jack 8-4 two-tone board, giving me a decent hand for short on value, second pair. Mostly be checking back turns without hitting a trip 8. I think even a 7 for kind of a weak 2 pair I can check back on that straight possible board. So yeah, I'm checking back pretty much every turn except for the 2 other 8s to give me trips, at which point I'll start blasting with those. Queen 8 suited a little bit looser than I typically open for middle position, but I got a fish in the small blind, so I'm going to go after him, try to get in there. The cutoff player hasn't been loose, active, or aggressive. Well, the button has been. I think it's still worth a shot. I'm targeting the 6 seat specifically to play more hands with him. This is also pretty close to a standard open from middle position, so I'm not getting too far out of line here by doing that. You know, normally I'm opening King 8 and Queen 9 suited, but folding Queen 8. Don't play with the fish, but pick up the blinds. That's a good result, too. Upper right-hand table, we have a 3x open from the middle position player, and then the button goes ahead and calls in position. King 9 suited is the kind of hand I typically squeeze, although we might be getting that pot a little bit bloated there. I think that's probably going to give me a few too many squeezes. I'm just going to go ahead and take the flop with King 9 for a call instead. Check range on the flop. You could also squeeze it, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's pretty close either way. I check the imposition, the raising player checks, and the imposition player that calls dabs for pot on the 6-5-3 two-tone board. I'm going to go ahead and fold King 9 overcards with the backdoor flush draw. I don't know if the imposition player is a fish or not, but he's betting very large multi-way, and the board does smack the kind of hands that like to call raises in position. You know, small and mid-pocket pairs could all have sets. Guess you could even have something like 7s, 8s, 9s for an overpair that also are in pretty good shape against my hands, so I'm just going to get out of the way. Haven't been at this table yet, I don't think. Stack sizes aren't obvious, but the one seed is calling a raise from the small blind against a button open, so I'm already very suspicious of this player. We get a min raise from a short stacked fishy player on the upper right hand table. I want to go ahead and put in a small 3-bet here to try to play heads up against this guy. I think I can also stack off 10s or better if he jams over the top. Slightly loose here given the stack sizes involved, but I think it's pretty reasonable. Plus, I think this guy is going to have just a weak range that just can't do a whole lot about it pre-flop or on the flop. And I can make top pair various draws that I can just go with. Comes along for the call. Great flop for Jack 10, the Jack 9-7 two-tone board. I've also got the backdoor flush draw. Just going to go ahead and put in a small bet against this guy. And dust off on the turn. Reasonably safe turn card, an undercard that's 6. We've got about a pot-sized bet left. I got top pair in the gut shot. It's time to get the rest of the money in here. I can do this with something like King Queen. I can do this with various flush draws, flush draws with overcards. King 10's a good hand to do it with too. So much of my range can just blast on him here. My overpairs. That's a jack, sets a 9s. He folds out against the turn jam. Lower right-hand table, opening pocket queens from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table, blind on blind, face a 3x open. I will be defending with my king, queen. I like to call here. 3-betting would, of course, be fine as well, but I think it does a little bit better in the call line, personally. Lower right-hand table, my queens face a 3-bet from the button, a player that's been on the loose, aggressive side for sure, 3-betting 3 out of 20 chances so far. This puts him up to 4 out of 21. Standard stack-off range here would be queens plus ace-king, maybe even get pocket jacks in there. Either way, I'm going to 4-bet my queens plus ace-king for sure to get them in. Use ace-queen offsuit as my bluff. Lower left-hand table, opening jack 10 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Upper right-hand table, face that small flop bet about 1/3 on king jack 6. I will float in position with my top pair. Not the best turn card is the jack, the board pairing card, making trips possible out there instead. But my hand is still pretty strong. He checks. I'm content to check back. Not too many bad cards for me. I guess really the only the ace is a card I really hate to see. I can check back to induce another river stab or underrep my hand to try to get Hero called down if he puts me on some kind of misdraw. Weak float. Lost our recreational player on the lower left-hand table, which is a shame. I get a 2/3 river bet. I'm just going to snap call with my top pair, and he's got queen high. Respect the bluff. I think you probably should do that. Takes away my chance to bluff with my bullshit that checks back the turn and gets to the river and doesn't let me show down ace high or some kind of middling small pair. That's why I checked back my king there when not that it's no longer as strong because of that tripped up turn. To induce some bluffs and get value from the bluffs when otherwise I'm not getting the cent out of queen high in that setup. I've already played a bit longer than I was supposed to. My tables are breaking some, having a hard time finding another good one. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the session down at this point here. Upper left-hand table, open 10s on the button. Using the 44% range. Small blind comes along for a call. Get an ace, king, 9, two-tone, or rainbow board rather. He checks to me. Just go ahead and range bet him small. Mostly checking back the turn with my 10s. A little bit suspect, this guy calling from the small blind there, just like this guy did earlier as I first sat down, but not real obvious that they're fish aside from maybe some minor pre-flop leaks like that. For left-hand table, we'll open ace-queen from middle position using a 21% range. Get called in position by a player I've already been a little bit suspicious of playing short. Calling on the button's not necessarily bad. So that call in and of itself doesn't tell me that he's a bad player, but he's playing an awkward stack size, and I think I saw him call the small blind against a button open as well. So I am suspicious of this guy and his, skill level thus far. Upper right-hand table, going to open ace-6 from the button using a 44% range. Upper left-hand table, going to check range to the in-position player. Got 2 overcards in the 10-7-5 rainbow board, but not a whole lot else going on. Turn is an offsuit 8. I'm going to go ahead and stab small with my overcards and mostly follow through, but that board is not great for getting folds here as it coordinates a lot with different stuff you could have. River is a deuce of clubs. I'm not going to show down my ace high, but I'm not going to be overbet bluffing here with no club blocker, especially against a suspected fish in position. So I'm going to go ahead and just use a smaller size, try to fold them off some kind of 6x, 6-7 type hand, or 6s, 6-7 type hand, whatever. And it works. Upper right-hand table, I open ace-6 from the button, 44% range, got called by the big blind. I range bet him small in position on the 9-8-8 two-tone flop. He check called, turn is a 10, put in 3 to the straight out there. I check back. River the queen of clubs, put in a 3 flush and 4 to the straight out there. I have the nut flush blocker. I've got ace high. I'm going to go ahead and turn my ace highs into a bluff on this board for sure with 4 straight out there. Could maybe overbet with the nut flush blocker. Not sure how much I want to be doing that, though, in the bet check bet line. It just isn't terribly credible. Although I guess I could have hands like 10s full, quad 8s, 9s full that would trap a good bit of the time, so it's not completely uncovered. But the smaller size is going to be fine, too, plenty of times. I'm not going to get myself on the spot where I'm getting myself trapped and shoveling a bunch of money into a trap there. So he could have traps in that spot. Last hand on the lower right-hand table under the gun is a fold, Jack 6 suited, so that's the end of the session for me. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time, this is Charlie Murphy signing off.